The day the mafia boss I had a crush on for 10 years was poisoned, I didn't become his antidote. Instead, I pushed his beloved white moonlight into the room. It was all because, in my past life, on the night I detoxified the man for him, his white moonlight witnessed it with her own eyes. The woman ran out the door with red eyes but suddenly suffered a heart attack and died on the way to the hospital. Later, the man calmly promised to take responsibility for me and calmly married me. But on the wedding night, the man pushed me into the basement with a sinister glare. Shen Chao Chao, if you hadn't drugged me that day, Yang wouldn't have witnessed that scene and died of a heart attack. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the night the man was poisoned. This time, I didn't hesitate to give the man to his white moonlight, watching them finally become a couple. Then, after faking my death, I returned to the northern city and continued being the young lady of my circle. But the man went crazy after I left, kneeling before me with reddened eyes. Chao Chao, I was wrong. Come back to me, please. What are you yelling about, Shen Chao Chao? Isn't this exactly what you wanted? I was jolted awake by the pain in my chest, finally waking from the suffocation of my past life. I found myself reborn on the night Pei Lai was drugged. In my past life, I loved Pei Lai to the bone. He was my brother's best friend. The most influential figure in both the underworld and legitimate circles of Nancheng. When I was targeted and tied up by kidnappers, he found out from my brother. He came to me, who was bound, took down dozens of people, covered in bloodstains, and rescued me from the center of the chaos. Everyone around was lying on the ground, moaning in pain, which also awakened my girlish admiration. Later, I went to the southern city alone and boldly expressed my affection in front of him. He coldly left me at the underground boxing gym, saying, "If you can fight your way to me, I'll agree to be with you." So I took off my elegant clothes and devoted myself to studying boxing and mixed martial arts, all for the day when he would look at me with newfound respect. Until he was weakened by a potent drug, and I willingly entered the room to become his antidote. The moment he was released, the door was pushed open from the outside by my brother, and at the same time, Pei Lai's white moonlight was also behind him. After that day, he was forced to marry me, and at the same time, he became a different person. I withstood all the opposition from the family and all the scorn in the southern city for him, thinking we could have a happy ending. But on the day of the wedding, he pushed me off the cliff into the sea. "If it weren't for you, Yang and I wouldn't have been separated like this. Get away from me." I sprang up abruptly, clutching my neck. Gasping for air, and glaring fiercely at Pei Lai in front of me, I realized the situation of my rebirth. Then I violently shoved Pei Lai aside and rushed out of the room. "Someone, your General Pei is in trouble." In no time, a group of people surrounded me, their faces filled with anxiety. But I stopped them at the room's entrance. "Call Miss Liu Yang over. Only she can help." My face was deathly pale, but my mind had never been clearer. In this life, though my clothes are half on and half off, at least it hasn't come to the final step. So now I only want to do one thing. Let Pei Lai and Liu Yang be together, and let me return to the northern city. What are you all still standing around for? If Pei Lai suffers, will you take responsibility? A few of Pei Lai's subordinates looked at each other, finally realizing what had happened to Pei Lai in the room. Staggering, she soon hurriedly dragged Liu Yang over. Liu Yang, dressed in a white gauze dress and looking frail, squinted her eyes at me. "Shen Chao Chao, didn't you travel all the way from the northern city just for this moment? What on earth are you up to by making me come in?" The air was stiflingly humid and hot, and I felt as if I was sinking back into the dark depths of the sea from my previous life, choking. I was filled with despair. I lowered my head and clenched my teeth. "If you don't go in now, Pei Lai will really lose the use of his lower body for good." The next moment, the person in front of me pushed me aside, and a series of ambiguous moans came from inside the room. From the sounds, the two inside had long been entangled beyond separation. A man's low growl, a woman's soft moan, the sound of objects falling, muffled thuds and impacts. Outside the door, Pei Lai's good brothers cheered. "Our boss is really something. I wonder if Miss Yang's physique can handle it. The boss knows his limits. Miss Shen might not have it easy. But Miss Liu is the one the boss holds dear." We don't need to worry. The cacophony of sounds in my ears pierced my heart with pain, one after another. Amidst the blur of flesh and blood in my heart, I drifted away from the room. I hid in the underground boxing gym, and when no one was around, I could no longer hold back, crying uncontrollably. At first, it was a suppressed sob, then it turned into a wail of grievance. As if I were pouring out all the grievances I had suffered from Pei Lai over these 2 lifetimes. Just out of the underground boxing gym, I ran headlong into my brother, who had come at the sound. Seeing me, he stopped in his tracks at once. Chow, chow chow, how did you? My brother didn't ask further. But I knew perfectly well that my eyes must be terribly red by now. My clothes were still torn from Pei Lai's rough handling earlier, making me look exactly like someone who had been bullied. My brother suddenly became anxious. Jiao Jiao, say something. What on earth happened? I'll stand up for you. I held my brother back and explained to him, it's nothing, brother, you forgot about my skills. I wasn't bullied, I just figured some things out. I wiped the tears from the corner of my eye and looked up stubbornly at my brother. Brother, I want to go back to Beicheng. Alright, alright, alright. My brother patted my shoulder and pulled me, with reddened eyes, into his embrace. Chow chow, it's good that you've come to your senses. I came this time to settle the score with that sweetheart of yours, but thankfully you woke up and didn't get carried away. Once we return to Beicheng, I'll have Dad find you a man 1,000, no, 10,000 times better than your sweetheart. You won't have to suffer in Nancheng anymore. Silly brother, he still doesn't know that the one I love is his good friend Pei Lai. In my past life, after seeing me with Pei Lai, he beat Pei Lai up badly and tried to take me away. It was my stubborn insistence on making Pei Lai take responsibility that led to my tragic end later. Thinking about it, I started crying again in my brother's arms. In my previous life, I sank to the bottom of the sea, not even getting to see my family one last time. I nuzzled against my brother's shoulder. Brother, I won't be going back to Nan City anymore, and I won't fall in love with that person again either. From now on, Pei Lai is here with Shen Chao Chao, just a stranger in South City. After leaving the Pei family villa complex with my brother, I went back to the underground boxing gym to pack my things. To keep my brother from worrying, I agreed to leave South City once the collaboration with the Pei family was finalized. While waiting for my brother, I took the opportunity to pack up my belongings in South City and say goodbye to my friends here. Thinking that I could return to Beicheng in a couple of days, I felt a lot more relaxed and finally laughed out loud as I picked up my trophy. Prepare the match for me. As I turned around, I bumped right into Pei Lai, who was draped in loose clothing. Whenever something bothered him, he would come to the underground boxing gym to vent his emotions. And I would always wait here to arrange everything for him. Now, he is also shirtless, ordering me to take action. As soon as I looked up, I was met with the sight of numerous bite marks covering his upper body. The smile at the corner of my mouth froze, and I awkwardly averted my gaze. Find someone else to do it. I don't have time. Perhaps because it was the first time I had refused Pei Lai, he responded coldly with an unrelated remark. What just happened was seen by many people. I have already decided to marry Yanga in 3 days. You don't need to play hard to get or hold on to feelings for me that you shouldn't. I suppressed the bitterness in my heart, lowered my gaze, and calmly replied, Congratulations, Brother Ali, may you have a happy and lasting marriage. Their marriage was something I had expected all along. I don't know if it's my imagination, but Pei Lai seemed to sway for a moment when he heard Brother Lai. I suppose it's because I've known Pei Lai since childhood and always called him Brother Lai. Ever since he saved me that day, I haven't called him that again. But now, this Brother Lai feels like a thin veil between us, one that I've just drawn back. He stood opposite, taking a long moment to react before clearing his throat. It's good that you know your limits. His handsome brows furrowed as if he still had something to say, but he was interrupted by the arrival of Liu Yanga. I've been thinking of coming to the underground boxing gym to work out lately. I'll take this platform. Liu Yanga was held in Pei Lai's arms, while he stared fixedly at me, his voice icy cold. Since Yanga wants it, you should give up this spot for her, and also prepare your residence in the Pei family villa for Yanga. Yanga and I are about to get married. And it's not appropriate for you to keep living next to me." He looked at me without blinking. And I tactfully stood up and gave up the spot. "All right, I'll go pack my things and move out now." My heart ached with bitterness. It turned out that Pei Lai's many reactions were all to clear Liu Yang's name and put her at ease. At the same time, it made me realize that there was never any possibility for him and me. But, "Brother Eli, I've been calling you that all along. You will forever only be an elder in my heart from now on. I will return to North City. Reuniting with my family amidst the falling snow, I will never go to places I shouldn't, nor covet people I shouldn't covet. I moved into the villa my brother bought in South City, and coincidentally, it's very close to Pei Lai's place. However, Pei Lai has been busy with wedding preparations these past 2 days, and I'm quite content chatting and laughing with the people at the boxing gym, packing and mailing some things, waiting for my brother to finish his business in Nancheng. No matter where I am, I keep hearing people marveling at Pei Lai and Liu Yang's grand wedding in Nancheng. Unlike my hasty wedding in Nancheng in my previous life, a wedding dress adorned with diamonds, flowers gathered from all over the city, even if it was just for 3 days. Pei Lai gave Liu Yang the utmost luxury. 2 or 3 days later, as usual, I went to the boxing gym and said goodbye to my friends before leaving. Just as I had put down my boxing gloves, a strong force gripped my wrist, making it impossible for me to break free. Pei Lai, with a dark expression, pulled me to a secluded spot, looking down at me from his height. "Have you been avoiding me these past few days?" I twisted my hand, freeing it from Pei Lai's large grip, and responded indifferently, "I didn't." He was surprised that I could break free from his grasp and, with a forceful move, pinned me against the wall. Only when I was unable to escape did he speak, his face dark with anger, still not admitting it. "You've been staying right next to me for 2 days, yet I haven't even seen your face. When you do see me, you lower your head and laugh and chat with other men. Isn't this you avoiding me? Why, do you still have illusions about me?" I looked up and met his gaze. The disgust in his eyes was so intense it almost made me tremble all over. In the end, I suppressed the bitterness in my heart and repeatedly interrupted him. "How could that be? Brother Ali, now in my eyes, you are like an elder. When you and Sister Yanga get married, I will definitely send a grand gift. I won't hold on to those dirty thoughts I had for you before. I've really come to understand now." One after another, I calmly expressed my inner thoughts, but Pei Lai's expression unexpectedly grew darker and darker. The corners of his lips curled into a mocking smile. "Elder, sister-in-law." He narrowed his eyes, his heaving chest betraying an inexplicable emotion. He stood up and shook it off. "You make it sound so easy. In the end, it's all about playing hard to get, with ill intentions that refuse to die." With that, Pei Lai roughly grabbed my wrist and dragged me to the Pei family villa. In the middle of the living room, several boxes were placed, densely packed with things full of memories from Pei Lai and me. There were the boxing gloves I bought for him, the sketchbooks I drew, and the handwritten love letters for every birthday. And now, they were all boldly displayed under the bright lights, exposed to everyone's gaze. "If you say you no longer have feelings for me, why are you taking these things out and putting them in front of Yanga now?" I slowly walked forward. This was indeed something I had tidied up, but it wasn't me who placed it in front of Liu Yanga. "This is what I threw into the trash when I left South City." But even if I said it, Pei Lai wouldn't believe me. "Yes, Brother Ali. I admit I once had feelings for you that I shouldn't have, but now that you're about to get married, I wouldn't do something so degrading to myself." I lowered my eyes, wiped away my tears, and gave Pei Lai a deep look. I took a lighter out of my pocket, bent down, and lit an envelope on fire. The words "to Pei Lai" were instantly burned beyond recognition. Calmly, I threw the burning envelope in my hand into the cardboard box. Boom, Shen Chao Chao. At the moment the flames erupted, Pei Lai's furious voice instantly rang in my ears. The residual light fell on his face, and I was surprised to see not a trace of relief, but rather a gloom so deep it seemed to drip with ink. "Shen Chao Chao, no matter how well you pretend, you still have to face the truth. In my heart, there is only Yanga." The flames scorched the already humid air, making it even hotter, and the heat seeped into my heart, involuntarily. I found myself desperately missing the crisp, biting winds of the northern city. Fortunately, once my brother finishes with Pei Lai's wedding tomorrow, he will take me back to the northern city. The next day was Pei Lai's wedding, held beside the famous ends of the earth in the southern city. A truly romantic setting. The entire city is rushing to send their blessings to the couple before this grand wedding of the century. My brother Shen Yi, while changing into his groomsman attire, told me to go and explore the wedding on my own. I didn't want to come, but he dragged me backstage. Unexpectedly, I ran into Liu Yang backstage. I didn't expect that when she saw me, she wasn't surprised, only triumphant. She beamed with a smile. I really didn't expect that Cao Cao would come to my wedding. I took a deep breath, frowning as I glanced around. There was no one else. What have you done to me? I don't want to make things difficult for you, but Shen Cao Cao. I'm about to marry Pei Lai. I have to know who is more important in his heart, you or me. The next second, I collapsed on the spot. When I woke up again, I was tied up at the edge of a cliff, and beside me, Liu Yang was also bound tightly. Yang, following the voice, I saw Pei Lai standing in the distance. His tall figure accentuated by a wedding suit that made him look exceptionally handsome, yet his movements were filled with panic. His brows were tightly furrowed, filled with anxiety. Who sent you? If you dare lay a hand on my bride, I won't let you get away with it. I closed my eyes. Liu Yang's calm and unhurried expression, along with what she had said before I lost consciousness, made me instantly realize what had happened. What? Is it the same as the last life? The wedding by the cliffside? The dark seawater. I always thought that in my previous life, it was someone Pei Lai had offended who tied me up at the edge of a cliff on my wedding day. But now, the kidnapper's face is exactly the same as in my previous life. The two of them must have been together behind my back even in the previous life. The sea breeze on the mountain chilled my face, and I realized I had been crying for a long time without even noticing, but I couldn't question it, because I was sobbing and the kidnapper had tightly covered my mouth. Don't even think about breaking free, Miss Shen. We were hired by someone to see who he truly values more when faced with life and death. Tears fell as I inwardly wailed. What was there to see? Didn't the current wedding already say it all? After just half a minute, Pei Lai had already stumbled to us, his dark eyes fixed intently on the kidnapper. I'll give you whatever you want, just don't hurt these two people. President Pei, we've heard of your reputation. Kidnapping them isn't about risking our lives for a bit of money. Pei Lai's pupils dilated. What do you mean? The kidnapper placed his foot behind the two of us. You, Pei Lai, have been wise and brilliant all your life. We just want to see what it looks like when you, Pei Lai, are in pain. Ha ha ha. Pei Lai, one is your fiancé, the other is the pampered young lady you raised. Today, one of them must die. Beneath them was a bottomless cliff and the deep sea, while beside them, Liu Yang's sobbing voice was unbearably fragile. Our Lai, save Cao Cao, otherwise, you won't be able to explain it to the Shen family. The next second, the kidnapper's foot was placed behind Liu Yang, and half of her body was left hanging over the cliff. Pei Lai was so frightened that his face turned pale, and his whole body trembled. Save Yang. The answer came out without hesitation, and the kidnapper smiled triumphantly, while Liu Yang, who had just feigned fear and tension, secretly curled the corners of her lips. I felt a sense of relief upon receiving the long-anticipated answer. I had no more tears left, for they had long since been shed. The scorching heat of the southern city's seaside, swept by the mountain breeze, left my face pale and serene. At the moment Liu Yang was pushed out, just as the kidnapper's hand was about to reach me, I spread my arms wide, letting the severed rope snap loudly beside our ears. I took a deep look at Pei Lai, who was holding Liu Yang. In that single glance, the emotions in his eyes churned violently, shifting in a way I couldn't understand. There was tension, confusion, panic, and tension. Are you panicking and nervous? I don't understand. Wasn't it his choice? I calmly sank into the sea. It doesn't matter anymore. In this life, the outcome is just like this. Pei Lai, may we never meet again. As the words fell, I tumbled over the edge of the boundless cliff, like a broken eagle stripped of its wings, plummeting straight into the deep sea amidst the damp, rising mountain wind. Cao Cao. The moment Shen Chaojiao began to fall, Pei Lai abruptly released his hold on Liu Yang'er. Even he himself didn't realize why he was staring blankly at the bottom of the cliff. He had arrived at the perfect moment, so perfect that he didn't even catch a glimpse of Shen Chaozhao's retreating figure. He reached out his hand, only to let it hang in the air, allowing the mountain wind to carry away the little princess he had raised. Zhao Zhao's ink-black long hair danced wildly in the cold wind. For the first time, he felt his heart gripped so tightly. Chow chow, Pei Lai roared at the top of his lungs, yet he couldn't even keep the figure at the bottom of the cliff from leaving. His heart pounded violently in his chest until he realized that the little girl he had cherished would never be his again in this lifetime. Stars began to flicker before his eyes. Is he really? He would never see the princess he had cherished since childhood again. The next second, Pei Lai fainted on the spot. Staggering toward the edge of the cliff, he was stopped by Liu Yang'er beside him. While the kidnapper had long since disappeared. You're crazy, a lie, you'll die if you fall off the cliff. Pei Lai suddenly spat on the ground, clutching his chest and starting to retch. Die. His eyes were bloodshot. Die. What did Liu Yang'er mean just now? Chow chow, are you dead? After saying that, he fainted to the ground and lost consciousness. In his dream, he had a long dream where he married Liu Yang'er. But he was not happy. Throughout his life, his mind was haunted by the last look Zhao Zhao gave him at the cliff's edge. Calmly, it was more heartbreaking than any desperate cry after death. That pale, plain face was filled with nothing but indifference and disregard for him. After several struggles, he finally got a bit closer to Zhao Zhao. Her beautiful dark eyes showed not the slightest ripple of emotion, and there was no fluctuation in her gaze when she looked at him. It was as if, to Zhao Zhao, he was just a stranger. A stranger. Well, not exactly. Looking closely, he felt that Zhao Zhao's calm eyes were filled with resentment. Resentment. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. His hands clenched the sheets, and he suddenly sprang up from the bed. Chow chow. Liu Yang'er held him down beside him, and the next second, Shenyi appeared at the door. Two good brothers locked eyes, with Shenyi's gaze filled entirely with anger. Pei Lai, where is Chow chow? Unlike his usual authoritative demeanor, Pei Lai unusually lowered his head. Chow chow, she, on Pei Lai. Shenyi saw hesitation for the first time and walked over to grab him by the collar. What do you mean by this now? I'm asking you, where is Chow chow? You used to dote on her the most. Pei Lai's eyes only dodged for a moment before Shenyi noticed, and Shenyi's heart grew frantic. Say something. Pei Lai, someone said they saw Zhao Zhao being kidnapped by the robbers, and you went to save her. Did you manage to rescue Zhao Zhao now? Pei Lai remained silent, the corners of his eyes red. With a bang. Shenyi punched Pei Lai hard in the face. You're nothing but a paper tiger in South City. You can't even protect my sister. I'll go find her myself. Shenyi let go of Pei Lai, not because he didn't want to teach him a lesson further, but because Shenyi had more important matters to attend to. He was going to find Chow chow. As soon as Shenyi left, Pei Lai completely collapsed onto the hospital bed. His mind kept replaying everything that had just happened. Lai, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you even look at me when you woke up? What about our wedding? Lai, you promised you would marry me. Liu Yang'er anxiously tugged at Pei Lai, trying to detect some clue from him. But no matter what she did, Pei Lai remained slumped in place, motionless. After a long while, Pei Lai finally showed a reaction. He pulled out the needle from his hand and stumbled toward the door. Yang'er, we'll hold our wedding later. I need some time to sort out my thoughts. I must go find Chow chow, and those kidnappers. I won't let them get away with this. Liu Yang'er stayed where she was, repeatedly processing Pei Lai's words. She had originally intended to chase after him, but instead, she ended up calling the kidnapper's number from before. Brother, you should lay low for a while. Pei Lai seems serious this time. If you really have nowhere to hide, give me a call. Liu Yang'er, who had been dressed in white, instantly seemed like a different person, her eyes brimming with malice and calculation. But the next second, Pei Lai, who had just left, returned once again. It crashed into the resentful eyes of Liu Yang'er. You and I will go together to find you. You were very close to that kidnapper, so you must be able to find him. However, Pei Lai did not notice the fleeting resentment and anger in Liu Yanger's eyes. It wasn't until he dragged Liu Yanger to the kidnapper's residence that they found the place empty. With the kidnapper long gone and nowhere to be seen, Pei Lai angrily punched the wall. Instantly, a trail of blood trickled down the wall. Pei Lai's eyes were fixed intently on that bloodstain. As if the crimson hue had seeped into his own gaze, Liu Yanger trembled in fear, her body shuddering. Noticing this, Pei Lai frowned with a hint of helplessness. For some reason, in the past, when I looked at Yanger, I only felt that she was pitiful and made my heart ache. But now, Yanger always looks so frightened. This inexplicably stirs a sense of restlessness within him. Reluctantly, he opens his mouth to comfort Liu Yanger. Yanger, I must find Cao Cao, alive or dead. And as for these two kidnappers, I will definitely not let them off easy. If you can't handle it, you can go back first. Liu Yanger recovered from the shock and grabbed Pei Lai's sleeve. But, Eli, what about our wedding? Since in your heart, I am more important than Shen Cao Cao, then you should pay more attention to our wedding. The expected comfort and gentle reassurance did not come, and Pei Lai's handsome brows furrowed. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Let's talk about it after the wedding. After leaving these words for Liu Yanger, he opened the door and left the Pei family villa. Wedding. These two words made Pei Lai's frown deepen even more. He had thought about it before. After all, something like that had happened. And he definitely had to take responsibility for Yanger. But he couldn't help but recall the way Zhao Zhao had calmly called Yanger's sister-in-law in front of him earlier. Her silent dark eyes lingered in his mind. Impossible to shake off, unable to break free, he searched for Cao Cao all night but couldn't find her anywhere. Even lying in bed, he remained dazed and disoriented. Not only Pei Lai, but Shunyi was also searching for Shen Cao Cao along the seashore. But even when Pei Lai was asleep, his dreams were filled with Shen Cao Cao. He felt dazed and disoriented. Perhaps it was because he had been shouting by the coast all evening, catching a chill from the wind. I'm feeling unwell all over. Plus, he vomited blood at the wedding yesterday, and his mind has long been clouded. Lying in bed, he was just like when he was unconscious before, drenched in cold sweat and moaning, lost in a dream. Finally, he saw the one he had been longing for day and night. It's just that Zhao Zhao wasn't as cold to him as she had been these past few days. The woman he had drugged and moved that day in his dream was Zhao Zhao. While he was lost in thought, Shunyi rushed out and threatened to castrate him. But Zhao Zhao stopped Shunyi and told him that she loved him. His feelings were complicated. After all, the little princess he had raised for so many years suddenly said she loved him. Anyone would be at a loss. But by a twist of fate, perhaps because of the Shen family, maybe because of a sense of responsibility, or even the joy he couldn't hide in his heart, he married Zhao Zhao. He thought that as long as he took responsibility for Cao Cao, he could marry her and safely make her his Lady Pei. However, his thinking was too naive. Cao Cao was not content with this. She repeatedly hurt Yanger, not wanting her to have an easy time. She even went so far as to provoke Yanger after their engagement, driving her to attempt suicide multiple times. It was then that he realized the one he had fallen for was the little princess who used to follow him around calling him Brother Ali, not the scheming woman she had become. So on the day of the wedding, Cao Cao was kidnapped by the kidnappers. He just watched coldly as Shen Cao Cao cursed at Yanger, and watched coldly as the kidnappers pushed her into the sea, although he felt a stir in his heart when he thought of the things Cao Cao had done while she was alive. He really couldn't convince himself to do otherwise, but later, he discovered that all of this was a deception orchestrated by Liu Yanger, and he had personally pushed the little princess he once cherished off a cliff. Even with so many unspeakable sorrows and cries, his little princess was gone. He punished Liu Yanger, throwing her and the kidnappers into the police station. But even so, his Zhao Zhao never came back. The Shun and Pei families cut off all contact from then on. That day, Shunyi gave him a severe beating, but even though the pain was intense, his longing for Cao Cao in his heart could not cease. Opening his eyes again, Pei Lai looked around and understood the experiences of 2 lifetimes. He lay in bed, unable to recover from the shock for a long time. Suddenly, his phone rang. President Pei, we've found those 2 kidnappers. By the time Pei Lai arrived at the underground boxing gym, the kidnappers had been tortured almost beyond recognition. Hanging from a sandbag and being beaten, Liu Yang'er was there too. As the kidnapper was hit, her body trembled. Pei Lai watched the scene coldly. In the past, he would have felt sorry for Liu Yang'er, but now, he recalled everything he had experienced in his previous life and felt no sympathy for Liu Yang'er at all. In fact, he even felt resentment. "Ah Lai, you've finally come. Now that these two kidnappers have been caught, the heavy stone in your heart must have been lifted. Can we get married now?" Liu Yang'er was completely unaware of Pei Lai's unusual behavior. She just held on to him, her mind filled with thoughts of marriage. As long as she joins the Pei family, everything is settled. But Pei Lai forcibly pulled Liu Yang'er off of himself. With a sarcastic curl of his lips, he repeated coldly, "Marriage." The fury in Pei Lai's eyes surged like a tidal wave of hatred. "You're just as despicable as you were in your past life." Suddenly, Liu Yang'er was violently thrown to the ground by Pei Lai and pinned in front of the two kidnappers. "Look at these two, don't they look familiar to you?" Liu Yang'er, these are your dear brothers from the orphanage. To marry into the Pei family, you'll really stop at nothing." Suddenly, Liu Yang'er looked up, her eyes filled with disbelief. How did Pei Lai know about her relationship with these two? Impossible. Ever since she was rescued by the Pei family, she has been hiding very well. Pei Lai couldn't possibly know. What was even more unexpected was that Pei Lai grabbed Liu Yang'er by the hair and threw her to the ground. "On our wedding day, you had those two kidnap Chow Chow and throw her into the sea, just to see who I cared about more. Liu Yang'er, let me tell you right now, no one is more important to me than Chow Chow." The next second, Pei Lai stepped on Liu Yang'er's face, leaving her unable to move. Over the years, it could be said that Pei Lai fought his way out of the South City. His decisiveness in battle, along with his ruthlessness and cunning, earned him the status he holds today. Therefore, unlike someone like Shen Yi, who comes from a noble family, when he gets ruthless, there's no reasoning with him. On that day, Pei Lai locked Liu Yang'er in the room for 3 days and 3 nights. He left her to fend for herself, and in Nan City, he had the power to do so. Later, Liu Yang'er did not starve to death in that room. When the door was opened again, one of her brothers from the orphanage had died, his body covered in wounds. Later, Liu Yang'er went to prison and spent the rest of her life there, but Pei Lai seemed to remain forever on the day of the wedding. It was supposed to be his and Chow Chow's wedding. 3 months later, Pei Lai woke up groggily from his hospital bed on an ordinary afternoon. Because of Chow Chow, he fell ill and never recovered. Even in his dreams, the events of his past life slowly became clear to him. Only in the end did he realize how many things he had done that were unfair to Chow Chow. Vaguely, he woke from the dream again, dazedly processing his current situation, and finally understood that his body was truly failing. Actually, he sometimes dreams of himself in love, receiving Zhao Zhao's affection. Unlike her now, even meeting Zhao Zhao has become a distant hope. This is all his own choice. Suddenly, someone ran in from outside. "Boss Pei, there's news from the Shun family. There's news from the Shun family." Pei Lai remained in place for a long while before slowly raising his head. "What did you say?" His subordinate now understood why Boss Pei looked so incredulous. After all, over the past 3 months, he had witnessed firsthand how much importance Boss Pei placed on Miss Shen Chow Chow. "Boss Pei, Miss Shen Chow Chow has been found. She has returned to the Shen family." Pei Lai instantly got off the hospital bed and ran toward the Shen family. Chow Chow, Chow Chow. He took a flight to Beicheng. But he had never felt time pass so slowly before. As soon as he got off the plane, he noticed that it was snowing in Beicheng. Pei Lai reached out his hand, and the snowflakes slowly melted in his palm. Just like when he first arrived in the northern city, as the snowflakes melted, the delicate features of Zhao Zhao appeared in his eyes. From then on, he unconsciously began to care for that small figure, protecting and guiding the little princess in his heart. "Brother Ali, I love the snowflakes in the northern city the most. You say, if we stand together in the same snowfall, does that count as growing old together?" At that time, he didn't have the chance to appreciate the beauty of it. Only now does he realize that it was the time he most wanted to return to, yet could never go back. when he entered the Shen family's home. His body trembled uncontrollably. It wasn't until he saw Shenyi that he finally breathed a sigh of relief. "What are you here for?" After saying this, Shenyi threw a punch at Pei Lai's face. "You don't deserve to stand in the Shen family." Shenyi's eyes were filled with rage as he recalled the suffering Cao Cao had endured when he found her in the small coastal village. He couldn't help but want to tear the culprit into pieces. Shenyi admitted that over the years, Pei Lai had saved his life many times, but that couldn't justify him hurting Cao Cao. Thinking that the kidnapper was still a result of Pei Lai failing to handle his own feelings, it made Shenyi angry that Cao Cao had been pining alone for so many years. His fists clenched, he was about to punch Pei Lai in the face again. "I just want to see Jiao Jiao." Bang! "Brother, stop fighting." A clear and moving voice came from inside the door, and at that moment, the two finally saw Jiao Jiao emerging from the Shen family. Jiao Jiao has changed a lot, yet it feels like nothing has changed at all. Those eyes are still as captivating as ever. In just a moment, Pei Lai's gaze lingered on Jiao Jiao and did not shift away. The next second, Jiao Jiao shielded Shenyi behind her, looking into Pei Lai's eyes, full of wariness. Suddenly, Pei Lai's body trembled, his voice even carried a sob. "Cao Cao, you." His heart was ultimately pricked by the way Jiao Jiao avoided him. He wanted to move forward, but Shen Jiao Jiao dodged him. "Jiao." In just a moment, he took advantage of Jiao Jiao's fearful reaction toward him. His eyes were red. "Jiao Jiao, are you avoiding me?" Pei Lai's dark eyes burned with intensity, yet they could not pierce Shen Jiao Jiao's heart. Shen Cao Cao hadn't seen Pei Lai for 3 months. Those days spent in the seaside mountain village, upon seeing Pei Lai, there was truly no emotional turmoil anymore. "I'm not avoiding you, I just don't want you to hurt my family." Pei Lai froze in place. Hurt family. It turns out that in both lifetimes, in Cao Cao's eyes, I was ultimately such a scoundrel. He paused for a few seconds, gave a bitter smile, and then stepped back from the two of them. "I won't, Cao Cao, I will never hurt your family again, and I will never hurt you." After saying that, Pei Lai froze in place, instantly wanting to swallow the words he had spoken without thinking. He lowered his gaze for half a second, recalling everything that had happened before. Upon seeing the mockery at the corner of Cao Cao's lips, he couldn't help but take an unnatural step back. No one would have expected that the influential figure who strategized and wielded power in Nancheng would also have such a moment of guilt, but who can he blame? This is the bitter fruit he himself has sown, so Shenyi had long stopped believing Pei Lai's excuses, and with that, he threw another punch aimed at his face. "Pei Lai, are you even worthy?" The next second, Cao Cao stopped Shenyi. "Brother, there's no need for this." Shen Cao Cao stepped in front of Shenyi. "Brother, I want to talk to Pei Lai alone." Shenyi naturally disagreed. "How is that possible? Cao Cao, I remember everything he did clearly." Shen Cao Cao had made up her mind, and no one could stop her. She smiled at Shenyi and said, "Brother, I know what I'm doing." Shenyi tried to stop her for a long time, but in the end, Pei Lai still followed behind Shen Cao Cao. They disappeared into the swirling snow. Pei Lai followed behind Cao Cao, since she remained silent. He naturally didn't dare to speak first. I don't know how long it had been, but the graceful figure in front suddenly came to a halt, causing Pei Lai to bump into Cao Cao. Cao Cao merely lifted her eyes indifferently, just as she always had, and even her gaze was completely detached. It seemed she had no interest in him, or in anything he did. The very thought of this possibility made Pei Lai's heart ache so much he could hardly breathe. It was Jiao Jiao who spoke first, pulling Pei Lai out of those distressing thoughts. "Pei Lai, you've remembered everything, haven't you? Your reactions just now were unnatural. You must have realized that I truly don't like you anymore." Pei Lai was stunned, his heart tightly clenched. Shen Cao Cao continued speaking on her own. "Then you should understand even more. Between you and me, it was only then that Pei Lai mustered the courage to meet Cao Cao's gaze, greedily fixating on her features before him, unwilling to look away for even a moment. Between us, it could even be said there's hatred now." Pei Lai's dark eyes glistened with tears. Shen Cao Cao continued, "So, Pei Lai, how do you still have the nerve to come looking for me?" As the words fell, Jiao Jiao also took a step closer, facing Pei Lai directly. For the first time, Pei Lai felt that the wind and snow of the northern city were so scorching and tearing, he unconsciously took a step back. His lips trembling, he thought of many things, but couldn't utter a single word. For the first time, he understood what it meant to retreat. Pei Lai stood in place, letting the coldest wind and snow cover him layer by layer. Is it cold? It doesn't seem as cold as it feels inside, but it's still cold. Yet, he doesn't want to move. It feels like a punishment, yet also like a release. Shen Chaochao left, leaving Pei Lai with these words. Even if there was hatred in her eyes, there was not the slightest ripple of emotion. Pei Lai understood. In Chaochao's eyes, he was merely a stranger with an unpleasant past. That night, he stood in the wind and snow for who knows how long. The snow in the northern city is chilling, and it can even hurt. Perhaps he was punishing himself, or perhaps he hadn't figured out how to live the rest of his life in this boundless remorse, how to endure it all. So that night, he was in the thick snowstorm of the northern city. He fell asleep, only to be found later. He stopped breathing, with a smile on his face. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.